It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years' experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Alex Guthrie. We're coming to you live from the world headquarters of Remodel Revolution, from the deep in the heart of the great state of Texas, from the city of Dallas. Big D. That's the big D. Don't forget it, because Dallas now is one of the most desired cities in the world, apparently. That according to the people that are in the know. That's what I read anyway. Today we're going to have a fantastic show. We have a very special guest, Julie Schuster. Julie is a designer in Manhattan, and we're going to talk about Feng Shui bathrooms. And we have our very special friend and always a special guest to have on the show, Miss Kimba Garcia. She's with RKG Roofing, and they're in the DFW area. And we're going to talk about hot roofing and all kinds of roofing stuff and other things in small business. So hang tight. We'll be right back with the show. Well, I'll tell you, when we all started getting stuck in our homes, and we had to make them where they were comfortable to live in, and gave us a little peace, and we have all this stress and all this stuff coming at us on the news, and viruses and depressions and all kinds of stuff. There has to be a way to fix your house where you can love to be there, because you're going to be stuck there. And that's when I call my friend Julie Schuster and I go, man, what do we do? What do we do? I'm tired of looking at these walls. And welcome to the show, Julie Schuster of Julie Schuster Design Studios in Manhattan, New York. Good morning.
Good morning, Alex. It's great to chat with you again.
Always. It's always great. It's always great. So I have become, and I've always loved plants. Okay. I'm an outdoor guy. I love plants. But since this COVID thing started, I have been putting them like an indoor farmer everywhere, because I want them around me, because plants seem to bring a certain peace to my soul. So Feng Shui, when we're talking about Feng Shui, that's a big part of it, isn't it?
You know, Feng Shui is an ancient set of guidelines that people used initially, not so much for interior design, but actually more for figuring out the most auspicious and safe places to locate their village, their home, where, what was defendable, what was giving them access to light and land to grow their food on, and water to drink, and rivers to travel on. So that's really where Feng Shui started. So obviously the tie-in to nature is there. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And balance, because all of the five elements, the air and the water and the land, I don't know what all five of them are. You'll tell me. Sun, it is really the biggest part of that's sort of the mix that they're bringing in, the stars, everything on Earth, everything around us that's earthy. How do we incorporate that into a bathroom? We were going to talk about Feng Shui in bathrooms and sort of making your bathroom your little paradise.
And we can do that. And it actually doesn't really matter whether it's a large bathroom or a small bathroom, whether it's the most recently renovated room. you can apply feng shui in your bath, and it really can become much more of an oasis for you when you do it. Talking about the 5 elements, though, is where you begin. So the 5 elements are fire, water, metal, wood, and earth.
Well, I was close.
I was the most important one there. And obviously, when we think about a bathroom, all right, well, clearly it doesn't take a huge stretch of imagination to try and figure out what element the bathroom is predominantly. It's predominantly water. Why is it water? Well, obviously we have sinks, toilets, baths, showers, water everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to remember from a feng shui perspective is that mirrors are also water element. So then now you layer that in there as well. And obviously we have an abundance of water in our bathrooms. Is that a good thing, or is that a bad thing?
That's interesting that you say that about mirrors, because I've always been told that glass always remains in a liquid state. It's very interesting.
I've never heard that, but that's the case. Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
it is representative in decor of water element for sure.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So now we have this room that has this massive overabundance of water. And as I said, is that a good thing, or is it a bad thing? You know, from feng shui, you made mention of the fact balance is an awful lot of what we deal with when we're talking about it from that perspective. So how do we balance an overabundance of one thing? By applying other elements to it that can drain or mitigate some of that overabundance to bring us back into stasis or into balance. What does that for water? Predominantly, one of the key things is earth element. So since we are talking about mitigating too much water, how do we do that with earth element? Well, we can do that with the colors that we decorate with. What are the colors of earth element? Oranges, browns, taupes, yellows. Those are earth element colors. Some of the colors that you see behind me, very strongly earth element. So that would be a great way of introducing it in, whether it's in towels, artwork, the feature wall, perhaps in your bathroom, the color that you're choosing for that.
The lighting, maybe the lighting.
You can always, yes,
Mm-hmm.
you can always, bring that in as well. But that's fire element now. So that's really
fire. Oh, okay.
More of a
Okay.
neutral when it comes to mitigating water.
Mm-hmm.
Water does douse fire. So introducing fire is a way of also draining away some of the power of water. So there you have an opportunity to do that as well. Anytime that you do that, that brings it back into alignment, it brings about balance.
So a little house plant, maybe somewhere in the bathroom.
Oh, plants in your bathroom are always a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, when it comes to plants, things like an orchid, they don't necessarily have to have a lot of natural light. They are air purifiers, and they're a great thing to put in there, as well as, obviously succulents,
Mm-hmm.
air ferns, things like that don't necessarily need a lot of attention and can function pretty well in less light.
Mm-hmm.
Although, as you say, wherever possible, we want light. We want a lot of it in our bathrooms.
Have a window that you can bring that, where you can bring the outside in, where you have a window and maybe you're looking out at plant a garden or something.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily something that you can do in every New York City bathroom.
That's right.
But in your part of the world, that's a lot more common, and it's certainly great.
Yeah. So we have the water, and then we're sort of offsetting that with these other elements. Now, a lot of the pictures I've seen when I was doing my research will have maybe some nice little polished rocks in the picture. Little things that I thought were quite interesting. Actually, I saw that in a lot of the pictures I looked at when I was doing my research for this. and of course the color is really interesting. But let's talk about the fixtures and the type of, like the countertops and the type of hard surfaces. How do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, they're really, again, we're talking about when it comes to, like you say, the countertop material.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about really more color that plays into this, and the colors that you select for it. You know, the color white is obviously one of the most important things that people want to put into bathroom decor. It has its pluses and its minuses, because it's not really, it's a pretty neutral color when it comes to adding or subtracting. It is, however, very reflective. It does bounce light around a lot, and that is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And then, so a lot of times we'll introduce natural. Of course, we have the natural stone countertops, which is always helpful. A lot of the tile selections that we have now, the options that we have, are really, really nice and interesting and earthy. I'm always attracted to that earthy stuff because that's just who I am.
The ones that tend to look like, whether they're natural rock or river stone or that sort of thing, they're great to incorporate in your bathrooms because they're, as you say, they're bringing in nature. They're representative of earth elements.
It's kind of interesting because when you're dealing with your customer and your clients and you're in the design phase of it, you start to get a feeling for who they are with where they gravitate to as far as these elements go. So I've had client, and a lot of it, sometimes it's a guy, I'll have guys come in and say, well, I want everything to be black. And you, and you go, no, you don't.
Not in the bathroom. Black is water.
You just think you do.
You're just filling the trough with more.
We're not living in Rome anymore. It's this sort of earthy. I think that what they're trying to do is a lot of times people will say, well, if I like a little bit of it, I want it all to be there, then I'm going to like it a whole lot more. And my theory has always been, and I'm not a designer, you are, so you can, shoot me down if I'm wrong, but my feeling is that you take elements, and I'm kind of wanting to say you tease with them, but you draw interest with it by having enough of it, but not too much of it. You want to look at something and go, that's a little different. That's interesting. You don't necessarily want the whole thing to be like that, or it doesn't become interesting anymore.
Well, in addition to being a feng shui practitioner, I'm also a living in place professional. So obviously we know that when it comes to the home, and this is kind of getting off the feng shui topic for just a minute, 80% of all accidents in the home happen in the bathroom.
That's right.
So one of the things that we want to talk about when it comes to designing a bathroom, let's say, for instance here, is using things that are also safer and more accessible. Again, not necessarily even for something that you're doing today. Maybe you don't have arthritic hands today. Maybe you don't have any subsequent dizziness. But you know what? One day you're going to have a cold and you're going to have a fuzzy head, and you're going to be really happy that we planned that accent tile in your shower because it's a faux horizon line. And that's going to help you get your balance back if the shower's a little too hot for you.
That's fascinating. I had never thought of what I call the hot streak as being a focus line. That's very, very interesting. Because I know that we do a lot of planning where we might, like you say, I'll say, do you want grab bars in the shower? Oh, no, man, I'm too young. I don't need that. And I go, okay, someday you will. Look, seriously, honestly speaking, you're never going to have a ski accident. You're never going to fall off your rollerblades and need a handhold to get in and out of the shower. You're never going to have a family member come visit you in this bathroom that might need this. So there's a lot of planning you can do, though, that you don't have to have the grab bar, but you put the blocking in for it, so you can add it later. Safe, where it doesn't get yanked out of the wall and stuff like that. bathrooms are very complex, little for normally a smaller space. It's a very complex room, really, if you think about it. It's got everything.
And I'm sure, Alex, you know, as someone who has designed and built a lot of bathrooms, people are always very confused. It's such a small place. Why does it cost so much to do this? It shouldn't. I decorated my entire bedroom for half of the money that it takes to remodel this bathroom. Well, yeah, you did.
You
I
bet.
believe you.
Your bedroom doesn't have plumbing, lady. Some do now.
That would be true too. But the point is, yes. I mean, there's a lot of elements that we can bring in. You got me started talking about tile, and one of the things that I love to do with tile is make sure that we have a balance of elements in there that we can incorporate, as you say. Make sure that the blocking is put in before you put the tile up. Make sure that you built a horizon line into your process. There's a beautiful opportunity to do that. And the other thing that it does is it keeps the eye moving. And beauty has to do with balance. The way we appreciate beauty has to do with the balance that it brings into our environment. So too much of a good thing is also not always best.
That's right.
So just because you love a particular tile doesn't mean it should go floor to ceiling on all four walls.
Exactly. Yeah. That I mean, and to me, it's just it's like artwork. I think that's where I found that, because when I look at art, when I'm looking at a painting like the one behind you, I might look at a certain part of it that really draws me. There's something about that I go, it's not because of the whole. Always, it's because of something in it that I go, that was really interesting that they did that the artist came up with that idea. And to me, design is the same thing. I see it as truly as artistic work. I mean, you're a creator. You as a designer are creators.
Yeah, honestly speaking, when you see an image of an interior decor, a room, that really resonates with you, I think what you're going to find is the thing that you love is that your eye has to keep moving. There's so much to take in that you don't, that's where texture and shading and all of the other nuance comes into it. Just like you were talking about, like the piece of art that you admire. You don't necessarily have to love every part of it, but you want it to and continue to entice you. The thing that you liked makes you look at something else, which makes you look at something else. And that's what a beautiful room or a beautiful home does as well. That's what interior decor is all about.
And I totally agree. And that's the talent part of it. That is what makes the difference between talented people and people that maybe don't have that experience factor yet. And you are wonderful. You're always so much fun to talk to, such a great guest. And I'm so glad that Manhattan is starting to kind of come out of its shell. I know New York has had such a tough go of it. And I'm so happy that you guys are starting to kind of live again.
We are, thank goodness. And it's a process. Look, it's like anything else. It's not going to happen in a moment. It's not going, but it is moving in the right direction, and that's the key thing we want to keep all of us doing.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's always a pleasure. We need to continue to do this more often. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Alex.
Thank you. Julie Schuster with Julie Schuster Designs. In a minute, we're going to have a hot roofer talk about hot roofing. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Imagine this, a totally customized, organized, and beautiful master closet. A home office that fits right into a perfect space. A pantry designed specifically for your storage needs. Imagine your home totally organized. It's time to call the design professionals at Closets by Design DFW and turn your dreams into a reality. With a design staff over 30 strong, Closets by Design works directly with you to create your dream space, and they build it locally, helping support the DFW community. Check them out at dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. Use the promo code RRV to find out about the amazing specials and discounts available. That's dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. And don't forget that promo code RRV, Closets by Design. Well, it's that time of year again where it's Texas weather. We're back to Texas weather. It's hot outside, man. It's hot. And if you're having your roof done, and a lot of people are this time of year for various reasons, you've got to be kind of careful if you're going to get up and walk around on hot asphalt shingles. So I decided hot roofs. I was thinking hot roofs, hot roofers. So I called my good friend Kimba Garcia with RKG Roofing and Construction right here in DFW and asked her to join us. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Alex. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be back.
Yeah. We're really. Let me get this set for you.
That's perfect. No, that's okay.
Okay. That's better. Oh, you may have to move it up.
Let's see.
Ben will run over here in a second and fix it.
Okay.
I'm sorry I couldn't get you in the microphone.
That's okay. Is that good?
Yeah. If it's good for you.
Okay. I think we're fine. Love it. Thank you so much.
So, how are you?
Great. Busy?
I mean, you are like a rock star.
Thank you.
I think we talked last time a year or so ago or 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And since then, you have gone crazy, girl.
Crazy.
You're nuts.
Literally a lunatic.
And you've taken up social media in a big way. But the thing that I'm super, super impressed with is how you have built your business and all the things around it, the social media stuff, the networking lounge that you have now. And you started that, right?
I did, yeah.
And that's real successful.
Yeah, it's been growing.
And so you've been in business, I think, 6 years now?
Yep, creeping up on 6.
Wow. But you've done more in 6 years than a lot of, one of the things that's really fascinating to me when I went in business, we had magazines and newspapers, things like that. We didn't even have pagers.
Right. Yeah.
Then
it was a different time and a different technique.
No cell phone.
Right.
No social media.
Right.
Believe it or not, no computers. We had to rent our printers for our computers.
Wow.
We didn't have air guns. We had to rent them.
Wow.
And so it was a long
different time.
Different time. And so we had to build this marketing thing up over years and years.
Sure.
It was word of mouth.
Yeah.
And what I have noticed that has been a big change, of course, for me and my business is where it's really kind of passed me by in some ways, is that's all different now. It's totally different.
Yes.
So in 5 years, you're able to accomplish what took me 20.
Yeah, the power behind social media and not having to have those conversations one person at a time, right? It's still relationships, it's still word of mouth, but now we're able to talk to thousands of people in one conversation, or at least get out a message that can convert multiple different conversations at a faster, higher rate. And that's why I've really pressed into utilizing it. Because I mean, even with, one thing that we do in my company, we're actually really big on door knocking. And it was one of those things where I can go around and I can knock one door at a time, or I can set an ad in that neighborhood and do what I call digitally door knock the entire neighborhood where we're already working, where we're already helping neighbors.
And the interesting thing is that your potential customers, the people you're trying to reach, they're all on the internet too.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time when they weren't. When
Sure.
some of us were, some of us weren't, some of us didn't get it. We didn't know where to look.
Right.
Well, now it's sort of condensed down to it's every and actually, honestly, it's this.
It is that. And, you know, even with what we went through last year, right? It's those couple people that were still, I don't know about that, you know, having to use everything with apps. Well, all of a sudden you can't walk into the bank anymore. You
Right.
have to bank online, right? So
right.
there's so many things that change, even in just the last year, that's pushed everybody more into the phone, more into technology, more into that virtual conversations being more known, like, and trusted. You know, people now know that getting on Zoom is almost like sitting down and having coffee with somebody.
Well,
you know?
it is, and it's changed our world, entirely changed our world. So I'm having so much fun watching your business. I
Thank
keep
you.
track of you. I love watching you and Robbie build this monster business that you've built.
Yeah.
And thank God for bad weather.
Yeah. You know, you hate to say that, but I like to look at it that when the bad weather comes, and it has this year, holy smokes, has it came this year. You know, we get to be the solution. So we
Yeah.
get to step in. We have been in business about 6 years. This year, I have worked harder than I even worked when we started the business, founding the business, getting the business actually, you know, that in the trenches where you're just working your butt off. This year has actually been harder
Really?
than the first few years.
So the success is harder than the beginning?
The
Is it this-
volume in which came, you know, when Texas endured what we did in February, my
Yeah.
world got wild quick.
Oh, yeah.
And I am such an empathetic person. I do genuinely care about these homeowners on this individual level. So it's been an emotional year for me.
So you doing the interiors as well?
Yeah, so we do all restorations for storm, fire, and flood. So when the freeze event happened and so many people's pipes busted, you know, we took on 53 residential properties in 48 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
you know, many of those were just
Are
now
you
wrapping up.
through that yet? Or
No.
you're yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And, you know, insurance carrier delays,
Uh-huh.
volumes on their side, brand new adjusters that delivered pizza last week that just don't know how to write an interior claim. Come on. I mean, I'm speaking the truth. Am I
Well,
not?
yeah, but
Like, you know.
you're competing against brand new contractors that were delivering pizza last week as well.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's the problem. That's a huge problem.
That's a
Always
huge
has
problem.
been a problem, incidentally.
Yeah.
Not a new one.
You're right. You know, and I'm just so grateful that Robbie has the knowledge that he has.
And Robbie's your husband.
Correct. Yes. Because he's really is the one that's able to get in there and say, you know, you're just not paying me enough to do this correctly. And what happens is contractors that don't know that, homeowners that don't know what I'm going to refer to, even though maybe I'm not supposed to, as the game, right? Is that the insurance companies, what we've been seeing is that they're underpaying claims. And then homeowners think that that's the only budget that they have to work in. So they'll pick the guy that was delivering pizza last week and just suffer the repercussions of the corners that he cut to work within the carrier's budget, to where we know how to write up a full scope where we're actually going to be able to get people made whole with quality again. And we'll present that to the adjuster.
You're putting together a scope of work where you have an argument with the insurance company. You're able to go to the insurance and say, no, that's not right. You're short.
Sure.
And most of them will work with you at least to a point.
Yes, they will.
No, very, very rarely are you going to be made whole on an insurance claim as a homeowner. It's very rare. It happens sometimes, but there's all sorts of prorated things, prorated that last, whatever it is they do. We don't do upgrades, whatever it is.
Right.
And so it's rare that you're actually made whole, but you're made as whole as you can be. If you have the proper paperwork where you can actually sit down with an adjuster and go, and again, my experience has been that most of them will say, yeah, okay, that's fine, and they'll cut a check for it. The problem that I think a lot of homeowners have, is they'll look at it because they're living in this world where they wish it would be something, right?
Yeah.
If I could just get it for this, then it'll make my life better. And they kind of go for that.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, if your contractor screws up, he's screwing you up.
Right.
I mean, it's just a bad mistake.
Sure.
It's a bad business decision to sit there and think, well, I'm just getting a great deal.
Right. Yeah, well, because, you know, over time, the insurance company is not going to be liable for the contractor's work. The homeowner is.
Right.
And, you know, this is where, of course, as contractors, we can't negotiate their coverage and their policy. But what we can do is present our argument on what we need to do the scope of work correctly. One of those that I personally have done this year was, you know, they didn't want to pay for the tile, but the water had gotten underneath the tile. And what I knew that if that water froze again, it would bust it, and that the homeowner would be liable for that maybe 5 years down the road, maybe 6 years down the road. You know, but I explained why we needed to pull up this tile. And so they ended up covering that. So I'm very impressed in which we've been able to make our homeowners completely whole again. Most of that being because we've just learned the art of documentation.
Right.
And we actually know what it's going to take to be able to get them there and be able to present that. So in our situation, it's taking a long time. Just the workload volume between us and the carrier.
The world's different, Kimba. I mean,
It's taken a long time.
It takes a long time to get materials if you can find them.
Sure.
It takes a year. I have builders telling me it's taking over a year to get appliance packages, you know. And I had somebody the other day tell me they ordered a refrigerator a year ago and it just got there. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That is wild. Yeah.
And it's crazy. And so, but that's everything. That's automobiles, appliances. It's
Sure.
everything for the. I don't get into all that stuff, but we all, you know, everything's different. We
Yeah.
don't have things at our fingertips like we did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm just super grateful for that we have gotten to where we've gotten in the business before this happened, because we do have those great relationships built
You
up
were
with
set up to
suppliers.
go. Yeah.
And we were already pumping volume. So we're definitely at the top of the we take care of you list, if
Yeah.
you will. I mean, it is
Yeah.
what it is, right?
Yeah.
The game.
Right.
But so I've been able to, of course, materials have been shorter, materials are more expensive.
Uh-huh.
But when we can provide that documentation to the carrier, they'll cover the difference in the material cost, you know, and we're able to source it quicker than a lot of people that I know out there right now. So I've been really grateful to at least have those relationships built in. I'm not trying to scramble to build them right now. They were
Right.
kind of preset for this. So that has been a saving grace through it all.
So, what is your advice to a homeowner that's looking at multiple companies to tackle some work on their house like this water damage or something?
Sure. I mean, one, I would just make sure that they're used to working with insurance claims. To me, it's just a different animal. Or to be able to get a PA or an attorney or somebody that can help you through that process. I just think that that's really important to understand the insurance process. But you also want to find a contractor. And in Texas, this can be hard because there's no licensing required, right? But I would definitely check references, check their presence online, see what other people have to say about them. And of course, if you look us up online, we're not perfect, right? But there's out in volume, you know, you can't make every single person happy, but
you can't be perfect.
you can't be
anymore.
perfect. But to
There's-
me, it's like, are 90 to 95% of the clients happy with the services? That's what I personally look for when I'm looking at reviews and things like that. So push into that. But more than anything, I've actually built out a webpage on our website that's questions you should ask before you hire a contractor. Now, it is geared more towards roofing and questions to ask about the roofing. And it's things like, are they going to tear down to the decking? Are they going to check for code compliance in your decking? Are they going to inspect for wood rot in the decking? What kind of flashings are we going on with? What kind of undercomponents are we going on with? Where do you source your shingles from? Because we know that there are second shingles that don't have a warranty, and you can go right up here to Harry Hines.
I'd never heard of that.
No? Oh, you're
All these years, I've never heard of that.
This-
No, seconds? No, I've never heard of that.
Really?
No.
Or is that being funny?
No, I'm serious. I would have never asked because
Really?
I hire good roofers. I don't.
Sure.
Why would I think of that? And if I'm the homeowner, why would I think of that? I wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I really wanted to make sure that people do think of that, because, you know, I used to have a little clothing boutique back in my early 20s, and I used to go down here off of Harry Hines because there's all those wholesale shops off of Harry Hines here in Dallas. There's also shingle supply stores down there. And what I've learned is that when the let's say OC says, no, I won't put a warranty on this shingle, and they
Or
throw
they
them
have a
out the back,
defective batch.
or the forklift already ran through them, right? The forklift already hit these shingles.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I really try to encourage people. I'm like, you want to know that they have a relationship with a major supplier, because as a homeowner, you want to know that you actually have that manufacturer's warranty that you're expecting, right? And the other thing about that is if they don't tear down to the decking, you're also not going to have that manufacturer's warranty that you're expecting. And that's a question that a lot of homeowners don't know to ask is, are you going to tear down to the decking? Because if there's a manufacturer's defect with this shingle and OC has to come out and look at it, or GAF or TAMCO or whoever has to come out and look at it, the first thing they're going to say is the contractor did not tear all the way down to the decking. Your manufacturer's warranty is void. And that's where a lot of people get thrown off.
Well, we're going to have to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to continue with Miss Kimba Garcia, because she's going to tell us, she's going to give us tips on when you're thinking about hiring a roofer, whether it's for hail damage, whether it's for you just think you need a new roof. How do we determine when we need a new roof, if we need a new roof? And you know, every time I drive down the highway, I see another truck wrapped with another roofer's phone number on it. How do I know that that's just not a pretty truck? We're going to be right back. Don't go away. It's only a few short weeks until we'll be running our air conditioners all day and all night. Hey, it's time to get an HVAC tune-up scheduled. Call my friends at Total Air and Heat in Plano, Texas at 972-881-0020 right now and get on their schedule for a tune-up. Don't wait for the long lines. Get ahead of the crowd. Total Air has been servicing North Dallas and Plano and Richardson areas for over 60 years. Steve and Justin Lawton sell and service Carrier brand heating and cooling systems with Green Speed Intelligence technology. So give them a call at 972-881-0020 or contact them at totalair.com. Sometimes I just get lucky. It's because I'm a rock star and I attract other rock stars. And I got a rock star right here, Kimba Garcia with RKG Roofing and DFW. Where are you anyway? Where are you guys?
We are here in DFW, in Austin, Round Rock, and in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's been a wild year.
Oh my God.
We've opened 2 new markets in the last 3 months.
Is that right?
Yes,
Man,
sir. Yeah.
way to go, girl.
Yeah.
You're amazing. And I wanted to talk to you about the confusion that happens. And I know we, in the last segment, sort of covered it a little bit, but I want to get a little more specific about it because I didn't really ask you. So I'm going to have to put a new roof on my house.
Okay.
And I'm just not 100% sure if it needs a new roof. I'm not 100% sure really what's under it because I bought the house, you know, it wasn't new when I bought it. So I'm just thinking, I don't know the difference if there's 1 layer or 3 layers of shingles. I don't know what a shingle goes on. You know, I'm trusting my roofer.
Sure.
How do I know I'm getting, but you know, I was going to the restaurant the other day and I looked up and there's a big old F-350 dually running down the road with big old yellow lights all over it and a big cow horn on the front and it had a roofer's number on it.
Right. Did you call him? You thought about it. You go, well, that's a nice truck. He paid for it somehow, right?
He was driving too fast. I couldn't get the number.
Typical. How typical. No, Alex, I love that because, you know, a lot of homeowners think that they don't need a roof when they do need a roof. And sometimes it's confusing to know. So one of the things that I invite people, especially here in Texas, is if your roof is over 5 years old, it's definitely time to have it looked at. It's been through multiple different hail storms. If you had hail in the April storm here this year, you need to have it looked at. And I say looked at, right? But it's like, how do we know that the person getting up there is qualified? I think is really the hard thing. And, you know, with that, you really just have to ask those questions. I think that he shared some of the questions from my website on that. But some of the things that I would ask as a homeowner would be, can you explain to me the difference between hail and mechanical damage so that I know what's
mechanical damage? What is that?
Mechanical damage would be caused from improper ventilation, for example. That could be one of them. Heat builds up in the attic and it causes the granules to just start popping off. And when that happens, you have the same degree of leak liability that could come from hail damage, but unfortunately, your insurance company doesn't cover.
It doesn't see pings in the shingles, so if they don't see the damage, they may not cover it.
They can see the mechanical damage, but they can also tell the difference in what was impacted by hail and what was popped off from the outside, because the back matting
not
isn't
cover the mechanical. They
won't.
only cover impact damage.
Correct. Storm
Cool.
damage, falling debris is usually what most people's. So I mean, like we've even seen a bullet in a roof, and since that fell from the sky, it was technically covered. But improper installation from the contractor that you chose is not covered. So if they did not ventilate your roof properly, and that causes the attic to get too hot and those granules to just start popping off, that won't be covered. So as a homeowner, I want to know that somebody can.
So you don't just throw a whirlybird up on each side of the roof and say good enough?
No, you can't.
No?
You absolutely can't do that. I actually use a air vent calculator. Air Vent, the manufacturer, they offer a really great app now where we can actually just plug in the square footage. That's why there's almost no excuse for a roofer to install ventilation improperly.
It's such an easy formula. I mean, it's not very difficult.
It's not very difficult to do it by hand.
Right.
And now that you have the app, it's almost like it's just dummy proof, right?
Right.
But yeah, IRC code says we need 1/300. Air Vent says that we need 1/150. So somewhere in between there, and that's for every 150 square feet of attic space.
12 inches.
We need 12 inches of ventilation, right?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that your contractor can tell you that, first of all, because that's also going to lead to damage that's not covered later. And another one of those is starter shingle, right? A contractor that does not use starter shingle, you're not going to have the same wind protection as somebody that has that. If they flip that 3-tab around backwards and the adhesive strip is 6 inches from the eave, that gives us a lot of room.
It lift.
Sure.
Yeah.
And now we've all seen, and if you haven't, hopefully you'll go look today as you're driving around, but the zippers on roofs, right? That's caused from that one shingle being lifted and then it zippers up. That's also not considered.
I didn't know what caused that. I see it all the time. I had no idea what caused that.
Wind, but
wind.
It's usually from wind and on a roof that didn't have starter shingle on it to begin with, because it started at the eave and then it just lifted it one corner at a time.
So what causes, when I look at a roof and I see all the lines, I can see the outlines of the decking underneath it or something. I see all these lines.
Sure, that's rafter pitching. And that, that can happen for a few different reasons. A lot of times it's just from the house shifting over time, and without spending a ton of money, because that's also not going to be covered, right? So without spending a ton of money, I'll tell you what I advise people to do, and it's slap a 30-year architectural shingle on there so you have more dimension.
Cover it up, yeah.
Because those flat 3-tabs, you can just see it so bad.
They're too flat.
They're just too flat. Yeah.
It's kind of like having a non-textured wall versus a textured wall.
Sure, and you can just
if
see
you have
every
a non-textured
imperfection.
wall, you can see when the sun hits it, you see every deformity in it.
Yep.
Or the textured wall, which contractors love because they could hide all the things they did wrong.
Right? Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
And my sheetrocker, he loves it too. He doesn't have to work nearly as hard.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be as perfect.
You know how those sheetrockers are.
Yeah.
He's sitting right over here.
Oh, is that who that is? I was like, can he hear us?
Well, I can't be nice to everybody.
Right.
And so when people are calling you and they're trying to figure out whether or not they want to put a new roof on their house, what is usually the first thing they ask you? What is it that they call Kimba and say, kind of thinking about this, but
usually it's, do you think my insurance company will cover it? And my question is, well, we need to find storm damage up there because that's what they cover, right? So it's going to depend on what kind of damage that you have. Is it just old? Some people think that they have that 30-year shingle up there and the roof's going to last them 30 years.
Right.
No.
What does that mean? Why do they call it a 30-year shingle?
Well, manufacturer says that without factoring in weather, that's how long that they expect it to last. Now, in Texas, you brought it up at the beginning of this, it gets 140 degrees on that roof, right?
And what happens when you walk on a 140-degree asphalt shingle?
Well, we call that marring, right? Marring is what happens because the asphalt is too pliable and it can move.
Right.
And then the granules move with it, right? So now we don't have that UV protection that we're looking for. And I have my guys take breaks. If it's 90 degrees or hotter outside, we actually tee up the homeowner to say, hey, we won't be working from between about 12:30 and 4:30. We are going to utilize early morning hours and late evening hours. So just please be prepared
And
for the
we
noise.
haven't even had a hot summer in 5 years. I mean, I worked as a framer when we had 30 some odd days of 100-degree plus weather, and we were having to start at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
We'd work
exactly.
from 2. I would leave the house at 2 in the morning, and I'd go work, and I'd come back at noon.
Yeah. To
And
break, right? To just
no, till the next 2 in the morning.
gotcha.
Yeah,
You know, and
it was
that's
just too hot.
That's one of the things I tell our customers is, one, these are humans and they're my humans, so I care about them. And two, even if you don't care about human life being on your roof at this time or the heat stroke that can come from it, care about the fact that it's going to mar your roof.
Yeah.
Your brand new roof, right?
When they pass out and roll down it with their nail bag on,
Yeah.
it's never a good thing.
Yep.
If you see your roofer land in the front yard, expect to have a bad day.
Call 911. Do us a favor. Call someone.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming in and spending time with us. It's been
Yeah,
fun.
Alex,
It's
it's great.
always fun.
Always fun. I was
Yeah,
excited when you
yeah.
called and asked me to come
That
back.
is
I thought,
so-
well, I guess I didn't screw up too bad last time. I got another
didn't
invite.
Screw up. You didn't screw up. You're awesome. You're awesome. Kimba Garcia with RKG Roofing and Construction in DFW, and where?
Austin, Round Rock, and St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I'm really proud of you. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for watching the show. Make sure and go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We need subscribers really bad. Check us out on Facebook. Like us. We love to be loved. And check out our podcast on Spreaker and any podcast site you're on, we're on it. We're on Spotify and Apple and Pandora. We're on all of them. Also, check us out at Texas Weather Tracker TV Saturday mornings at 9 and 11, where we run this show on Amazon, Apple, and Roku TV. And don't miss our show next week. It's going to be another exciting adventure on Remodel Revolution. This is Alex Guthrie checking out. Have a great week.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.